Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another live episode of the Sports Report Live right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Of course, I am your host, the radio guy, Mike Prince. Today, we have a pretty good show scheduled for you. We're scheduled to speak with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn Sports Network. He'll talk about the game that was between the Jags of Southern University and the Alcorn State Braves. We'll hear from Johnnie Football Cole. He'll talk to us tonight about the game of the week. Happens to be that same game, but we'll get a chance to break some things down. Our sponsors for tonight's show will be attorney Lee Van Richardson of Hempstead, Texas. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance of Waller, Texas. Prairie View Athletic Club, of course, of Prairie View. Diva Skin Conditioner, located at divafeet.com. Want to give you some, they say, some updated information here in week number 8. New York Giants victorious over Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions victorious over the Giants by the score of 31-26. I'm all over the place, aren't I? But you get the gist of what I'm talking about. The Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs right now at halftime. Kansas City up by the score of 17-14. And I guess another game, well, there's no guess to it, a game of extreme importance is the World Series Game 5 between the Astros and the Nationals. And the Astros are now leading 4-0 as far as the sixth inning. Top of the sixth just completed. Astros on top 4-0. And I know that I'm 45 miles northwest of Houston, but I did a poll the other day when the Astros were down 2-0. And I asked, do you believe the Astros can climb back? And a resounding 80% of you said no. But I know how it goes. If Houston happens to pull this thing out, they'll, man, go Astros. And that's good, and you're entitled for that. But if you're going to be with them, you know. And it just goes to show you, too, that fans are emotional. Fans can be fickle. And the cure-all to all is winning. And it doesn't matter what level you're on. It's all about winning. And if you can take care of that, that's half the battle. We're going to go now and get some of our high school results. On the weekend, it was a rough weekend for Waller County. You'll find out here with the reading of our scores. But Corrigan was victorious over Anderson Shiro by the score of 23-6. Louise 13, Summerfield 12. That was a tough one. Columbus 48, Hempstead 6. Royal had no answers for Gidding, losing by the score of 40-0. Belleville 27, Caldwell 7. Lufkin just continues to roll right along. They were victorious over Magnolia West 52-7. Waller lost a heartbreaker to Caney Creek by the score of 41-40. Magnolia 55, Tomball 28. Tomball Memorial and Cypress Park, another scrap heap battle, found Tomball Memorial victorious by the score of 36-35. Brenham fell short to Bastrop by the score of 30-25. And those were the local regional scores for the Waller County area as far as high school football goes. Before we go any further, give a congratulations to Prairie View soccer program. They were victorious over Grambling earlier today by a score of 2-0. They secured the number 2 spot for the tournament that will be hosted on the campus of Prairie View coming up, I believe it's next week. And we'll quickly now give you some of the football scores from the world of HBCU. We'll start off over in the MEAC. And the MEAC scores for the weekend it was saw Florida A&M victorious over Morgan State by the score of 24-12. Somewhat of an upset, but not an upset, but it did have a cause and effect in some of the poll rating. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. South Carolina State victorious over Bethune-Cookman 27-19. North Carolina A&T rebounding after their heartbreaker to FAMU destroyed Howard 64-6. North Carolina Central 30, Delaware State 23. In the world of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, it saw a very wild and crazy weekend. A weekend that goes without saying, a separation weekend. And don't look now, but Grambling's right back in the thick of things. Of course, Thursday night started out with a double overtime loss for the Panthers to Jackson State by the score of 38-35. I guess you can call this a upset to a degree, but it was nonetheless a shocker to all. Mississippi Valley 35, Texas Southern 14. The game of the week featured Alcorn and Southern University. Alcorn coming out on top 27-13. Alabama A&M and Alabama State in the Magic City Classic. Another classic it was. 3 overtimes. Alabama A&M was able to prevail by the score of 43-41. Grambling State 39. Arkansas Pine Bluff 43. And now when you start looking at the thick of things, you've got a very, very interesting race starting up in the West. Southern on top with a 3-1 conference record, followed by Pine Bluff at 2-2. Prairie View's at 2-3. Grambling now is at, they should be 2-2 as far as conference goes. And, of course, Valley will stay at 0-4. Arkansas, but Alcorn State 4-0 in conference play. Alabama A&M 2-1. As well as Jackson State, Alabama State 2-2, and Mississippi Valley now goes to 1-3. So we've given you the up-to-minute updates on everything that's going on. We're going to take us a quick break right now. We'll try to get our first guest on for tonight's show, Brother Charles Edmond of the Alcorn Sports Network. Remind that you are listening to the Open Mic Broadcast Network and the Sports Report Live right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We'll take us a break, and we'll be right back. Are you one of the many Americans that deal with the effects of diabetes? Diva Skin Conditioner could be the remedy that you need. Diva Skin Conditioner is a formulation that was designed with you in mind. Diva Skin Conditioner comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in their product. For more information, visit divafeet.com. That's D-I-V-A-H. feet.com. Or you can speak with a representative by dialing 903-270-0026.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Me too.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now.
You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to the Sports Report Live. Mike Prince here with you on another Sunday night. A full weekend it was in the world of HBCU sports, and in particular that of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. The game of the week, no doubt, featured Alcorn and Southern University doing battle at the reservation. And as we mentioned in our first segment, Alcorn was able to hold off the Jags by the score of 27-13. I have with me our first guest of the night, the voice and the chief honcho of the Alcorn State Sports Network, none other than Charles Edmond. How you doing, big guy?
Hey, Dr. Prince, how are you?
Man, I'm doing good. I know you're doing a lot better. Another battle for the ages, if you would, between Southern and Jackson. I'm sorry, not Southern and Jackson, but Southern and Alcorn. Give us a recap, man, from your bird's eye view of how things went and what you saw, some of the keys of this thing coming out the way it was for Alcorn.
Well, it was a good football game. There's no question about it. It was a really good crowd, despite the fact that there was rain up until about 9 o'clock Saturday morning. And we had about 16,000 come out. I think if it was a picture-perfect day, you probably would have had twice as many people in the stadium. But nonetheless, it was a highly anticipated battle. You know, the big question was who's going to start at quarterback for the Jaguars. Was it, was Skelton, obviously. And, you know, for the Jaguars, I mean, it was 6-3 at halftime, but the Braves came out with a 14-point third quarter, and they got back to Braves football. And that's what it's all about. I mean, the Braves only rushed for 100 yards, but Noah Johnson was effective throwing the football, throwing for 277. And it was kind of surprising because I thought with the wind and the conditions that throwing the football probably would not be, you know, of the utmost. But as it turned out, Felix Harper made plays. Southern brought pressure. They didn't get home. And there were some situations and some one-on-one battles in which the Jaguars were called for a number of pass interference calls on the back end that kept drives alive. I think probably the bigger story was the turnovers. Southern with a little trickeration, a little halfback option. They turned it over. Dawson Odom said that yesterday after the game that was a play that they practiced. It just wasn't executed properly. And then the Braves got a turnover on a batted ball, a short field, and they were able to score on that. So if you kind of break it all down, I mean, the Braves outgained Southern 377 to 284. Jaguars with two big turnovers that turned into 14 points, and thus the 14-point win for the Braves.
Well, what had me kind of chuckling over here to myself when you talked about getting back to the Braves' ways of doing football, it's unheard of for you Braves to be passing the way you've been passing the ball of late. Man, you guys are a ground and pound type team, you know, and a very physical team on top of that. But there's been a transitional period since the arrival of Felix Harper. And I'm very opinionated. I think because of his play, I think it has just been a caution to the wind. Hey, let's just keep Noah on the shelf. Everything is rolling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I mean, the old saying is you ride the hot hand. And in football, you ride the hot hand because the hand might not stay hot for long. But while it's hot, you ride it. And right now, Felix Harper is the talk of the SWAC for sure, the talk on campus, the talk of HBCU football. And the one thing about Felix Harper is that you clearly see the poise, number one. And number two, he hangs in the pocket. He doesn't abate the pocket and just take off. Pressure comes, he knows it's one-on-one on the back end if the O-line holds up, and they have for the most part this season. And Felix Harper gets it out there. And then you have to give credit to the Braves receivers, Chris Blair, Pringle, Juan Anthony. Those guys really stepped up and made some catches. But I think, one of the stories is that the Jaguars back end just couldn't hold Chris Blair because they kept targeting him, especially in the first half. and the Jaguars were called for a number of holds on the secondary and pass interference calls, and they exploited that, and that helped the Braves' cause as well. So I think when you look at it all, I mean, the Braves took advantage of some weaknesses. It's a good football game. Braves handle their business, and if Southern gets back on track, we'll be talking about this matchup again December the 7th.
You know what? And that's another thing, too. I may mention, could this just be round one? And the next one, of course, will be for all the marbles. When you look at that, it leads us to now the standings as they are. I guess it's safe to assume that we're past the halfway point of the season. I would more like to say maybe 65% of the season is behind us now. How are you assessing these standings as they're looking right now?
Well, clearly the Braves have a foothold on the Eastern Division. The Jaguars still have control of the West, but it's very small. It's a very small margin of error. But what happened is that by the Braves beating Southern Saturday, it brought Grambling back into the fold. And Grambling won a huge game at UAPB yesterday. And now what it means is that both Southern and Grambling control their own fate. You know, if Grambling wins out, including the Bayou Classic, they win the West. Southern, obviously, if they get back on track, and if Grambling drops one or two, if Grambling drops two, actually, then the Jaguars would win the West. But what it means is that, yet again, and this is kind of a boring deal, but the Bayou Classic most likely will be for the Western Division. Now, I'll say this, as far as what Southern has coming up this week, probably the more intriguing game of the week is Southern hosting Alabama A&M, and it's Southern's homecoming this week. And I think the biggest statement that should be made by every player in that Jaguar locker room, and probably coaches in Dawson Nobles as well, don't let a loss beat you twice. Don't let this Alcorn loss linger over you to where you lay an egg at home on homecoming against Alabama A&M, a team that, by the way, won a double overtime thriller against Bama State, and they are still in the Eastern Division hunt as well, and the Braves have to play A&M coming up in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm pretty sure if you got your old rabbit's foot hanging on with you, you might be pulling for Southern this weekend to kind of help you guys breathe a little easier in that East.
Yeah, I am, but I also, in watching the Jaguars and especially how they play at home, and of course we're off this week, so I can kind of take a step back and look at these other games a little more closely. But it seems to me that Southern plays with a little bit more tension at home. Not attention with an A, tension beginning with a T, meaning they're a little bit more uptight at home. And I think there's just higher expectations from the Jaguar Nation that they're supposed to win at home. Well, if you play well, you should. But there are times in which you don't always play well at home, and the fans kind of let you know that you're not playing well, and that provides a little extra tension. So Alabama A&M is riding high. They won against their arch rival, Bama State. Southern lost to their second biggest rival in Alcorn. Now, Southern has to pick themselves up off the deck, block out all the homecoming stuff and get back at it, because A&M is not going to be an easy W by any stretch of the imagination. I think one guy that's probably unsung in this conference, kid named Akil Glass, the quarterback of Alabama A&M, kid from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep.
He's been banged up. He's been banged up throughout the course of his career, and you're kind of seeing Akil Glass step up and play really well when he's healthy. So if Akil Glass is healthy, he's a very serviceable quarterback, and I think they have an offensive system that allows him to be managed and allow A&M to control the ball offensively. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm just anxious to see how the Jaguars respond after losing to Alcorn Saturday.
Well, the DNA of a Connell Maynard coach team is just take what they give you, and he looks for a good manager, as you mentioned, in Glass, someone that's not going to lose the game for him, but keep him up close and personal on how things are going. And like you said, will be a very interesting game. And it kind of sets the tone. The East has somewhat improved. Well, it won't be no somewhat. They've improved tremendously, especially with the surgence of an A&M and Alabama State as featured in this Magic City Classic. So when you look at Alabama State and the games they have remaining, what do you think of the job that Coach Ely is doing over there with them guys?
from the outside looking in, and I'll say this, that I know Bama State fans and I know A&M fans, and I can tell you this. All Bama State fans talk about in football is the Magic City Classic. All A&M fans talk about in football is the Magic City Classic. So when you win the Magic City Classic, not only is it going to be talked about 24 hours after the fact, 24 days, 24 months, well, not 24 months, 12 months after the fact, A&M fans are going to be talking about winning the Magic City Classic and how they did it in double overtime. Bama State, this is the second close loss, I believe, that they've had against A&M. They lost to them last year. I think it was a 7-point game. So I know Bama State fans are not happy about the fact that they can't get over the hump. They were using their third-string quarterback. Their number one starter went down against Alcorn, and so now they're using their number 3 quarterback, and that's tough. That's tough. And I think for Coach Ely, it was a good start, but now, those are reality. And now how his team kind of finishes the year, I think will determine how many Alabama State fans stay on the bandwagon. If they fade from here and don't win another game, then I think a lot of folks will jump off the bandwagon. But Alabama State has a good team. I still think they're probably a year away. They need to get better quarterback play. I think their running game is pretty solid. And defensively, I think they have to get better. So I think Bama State will bounce back. But, this is obviously a tough loss, especially when you had, a 14 or 21-point lead in the Magic City. You got to finish the deal. And Bama State didn't do that yesterday.
And don't look now, but your alma mater, the Grambling State Tigers, are back in the conversation of thing with the huge win over the weekend as they were able to hold off an Arkansas Pine Bluff squad.
Yep, I think for Grambling, it's their defense, although Pine Bluff scored a ton of points yesterday, and they've been doing that all year. So I think it shows you that Pine Bluff's got some offensive continuity. But Cedric Thomas, the second-year head coach, he's a defensive coach, was a defensive coordinator at Alcorn before he was named the head coach of UAPB. So he's got to clean up his defense. But Grambling, I think Hickbotham has stepped up. And, Broderick Fobbs, said pretty much if you're playing 3 quarterbacks, that means you don't have one. And he was begging one of his 3 guys, somebody please take this job. Step up and be the guy and be the quarterback. And I think Hickbotham did that against UAPB in a tough place to play in Golden Lion Stadium. A high-scoring game, which we kind of expected. I would expect kind of a lower-scoring game, especially with Grambling's defense. But Pine Bluff's offense is pretty much has really done the job. So Hickbotham is doing the job right now. I think he will probably start going forward unless he has some bad turnovers, which he's had a tendency to do here lately. But Hickbotham has stepped up, and he's the leader. He's the quarterback for now. And Grambling, by virtue of Southern's loss, Grambling wins out. Here's an interesting dynamic, too, Dr. Prince, on Alcorn, what they've got coming up in Grambling. Alcorn is playing, if you want to just kind of rate the teams, who's the top dog in the league, who you think's the second-best team, I think you can say the Braves number 1. I think you can clearly say Grambling number 2. And I think you can say Southern number 3. And I think right now, by virtue of the win in the Magic City, you can make the case Alabama A&M number 4. So if you look at what the Braves have coming up, the Braves have 2 of the top 3 teams in the league coming up here in the next couple of weeks in Grambling in a couple of weeks and Alabama A&M at home. So it's going to be interesting for the Braves. I mean, they clearly are in control of the East, and you have to add a little dose of reality. There's still some work to do because if they stumble, for example, at Grambling, that opens the door for Alabama A&M, especially if they beat Southern next week. It kind of makes things interesting. The Braves, if they handle their business, they're fine. But if they slip a little bit and A&M continues on their forward progress, then the Braves have to look over their shoulders, something that they haven't done all year.
You're listening live right now to the Sports Report live here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Our guest is Brother Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Network. And, of course, I want to remind you that this episode is being made possible by attorney Lee Van Richardson, located at 1047 Austin Street in Hempstead, Texas. That phone number is 979-826-8008. Now, Charles, you made mention talking about some good defense being played, and I'm going to add a team in there that because of their record, people wouldn't think that they've been playing good defense. but they created 6 turnovers this past weekend, and I'm talking about Mississippi Valley. The record doesn't indicate it, but it's greatly showing through the efforts made. It's a vastly improved team. And what Coach Dancy has been able to do with the pieces that he has, he's making the most out of a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the case that Valley probably makes 6 or 7 more plays. You know, you could talk about Valley in the conversation. I mean, Valley, pushed us around a little bit, through the first half and then in the second half. We turned it over 5 times, and Valley was opportunistic on some of that. Valley clearly is on the right trajectory, and I think that's a good sign for Mississippi Valley football, because in years past that hadn't been the case. They pushed us around. They probably should have beat Jackson State, and they handled Texas Southern, and I think Texas Southern might have taken a step back after they were playing a lot better under Coach McKinney the last couple of weeks, and now they take a step back. So, Valley, I think, right now you just kind of, do the best you can the rest of the season, continue to play hard, continue to play well, and I think for Mississippi Valley, if they finish the season strong, winning 3 of the last 4, whatever it may be, I think that's a good sign going forward for Coach Dancy and his ball club.
Now, you notice that I've delayed talking about a particular game, and I got to be a big boy and face it. And it started off on Thursday night. Prairie View losing, of course, in the overtime, double overtime, 38-35. Now, from you being on the outside looking in, would you give me your assessment of what you witnessed on Thursday night?
I saw the snippets of it, and it was a bad loss for Prairie View. Now, congratulations to Jackson State. And Jackson State is showing their toughness. In the boxing analogy, you start in the middle of the ring, you get them against the ropes, you throw some punches, you throw some haymakers, and they're still standing tall. And they throw a punch or two to get off the ropes, and they get you in the middle of the ring, and then they're fighting you. And that's what's happened the last couple of weeks for Jackson State, Valley, and Prairie View. But for the Panthers, clearly you're at home, Thursday night game, you're scoring a ton of points. Jackson had not been lately up until the Valley game, in which they scored 31. And to allow Jackson State, who's still trying to figure out the quarterback position, I think they have that solved now. And an unbelievable touchdown by Jackson State, to extend the game, and then a blocked field goal, and you lose the game. You look at Prairie View right now. They lose by 4 to Alcorn. They lose by 6 to Southern, and they lose by 3 to Jackson State. If Prairie View makes 7 plays in those 3 games, we're talking about Prairie View in the conversation for the Western Division title. But that's not the case. The woulda, coulda, shouldas, you can't talk about that at this point with a month left in the season. Didn't happen. So it's clearly disappointing, what's happened with Prairie View, and especially on Thursday night. And for Coach Dooley, it's just about, again, trying to finish the season strong, playing with some heart, passion, pride, and desire to finish out the season. Yes, he's beaten Texas Southern. Yes, he's beaten Grambling the last couple of years. But the games against the big boys, the Southerns, the Alcorns, and the Jackson State, obviously, they struggled. And that's something he's going to have to work on going forward. Defensively, they've not gotten off the field. And, you can score 1 million points, but if you give up 1,000,001, you still lose. So I think for Dooley, he's going to have to look at his defense in the offseason and do whatever he needs to do to improve that side of the ball.
Well, they'll get a bye week. They get a chance to get their heads clear. They'll take on Edward Waters the following week before they close out between Pine Bluff and Alabama State. And my concern now, more or less, is the psychological approach for the student athletes. Some of these guys, we're talking about 18 to 23-year-old young minds. I hope they have not checked out mentally, and they could finish strong. A very talented team, still struggling when it comes to penalties and untimely penalties, double digits with the exception of Virginia Lynchburg. Every game they've been in have been double-digit penalties. They had, I believe it was 16 penalties for 143 yards this past weekend. And you can't beat good teams, and let alone bad teams, when you're shooting yourself in the foot that many times.
I absolutely agree with that. And I think for the Panthers, that's one of the issues. And I think, Dooley runs a high-risk, high-reward system offensively. I mean, they're exciting to watch, like a video game. That's the high reward, but there's risk that comes with that. And when you're not able to run the football as effectively, even though they have, Tucker has done an outstanding job. The Grambling game, he was terrific. Against Alcorn, he was really good. But when you're slinging the ball all over the place, trying to go point for point with teams, and that's what Dooley does. I mean, he's going to stretch the field. When you throw the football, 3 things happen, and 2 of them are bad. So that's just the nature of what his system is about. And I think going forward, this is where he's going to really earn his money and his staff. How his team finishes out the slate. They're not going to win the West. He can rally the troops, circle the wagons, all that coach speak. And if his team finishes out strong, okay. But if they fade into the sunset, then that's a whole nother story. So we'll see how that unfolds.
Well, of course, we'll be watching with a close eye. And as a fan, supporter, broadcaster, sometimes people walk around with their emotions on their sleeves and think that you're being harsh and critical. But you only report what you see. When it's good, it's good. But when it's bad, it's bad. But you just got to weather the storm. Charles, you got a bye week this week, man. And what are you going to do with yourself, man?
Well, I'm going to, this is one of those transition periods. Basketball season starts week after next, starts 9 days from now. As a matter of fact, I'll be in Memphis on Election Day. Our Lady Braves basketball team open up against the University of Memphis. So this is kind of the week to kind of deal with football, kind of take a break a little bit, enjoy the weekend, and then basketball 9 days from now. I'll be in Memphis doing the Lady Braves game, and we'll be talking basketball. So this is kind of that time of the year in which, football still the talk, but basketball season gets underway as well. And our Halloween Madness is coming up as we preview our basketball teams. That's this week. So it stays busy. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to just sit back and see these games in the conference. The Jackson UAPB game is the one I'm interested in as well. We'll see if Jackson State can stay in the conversation because, we talked about A&M, we talked about Bama State, but Jackson State's lurking around. They've won 2 tough games that they very easily could have lost, and we wouldn't be talking about them. But we are because they won those games. So they come home, and they're going to have to score a ton of points because UAPB's doing that. And it should be an entertaining game. That's the one I'm going to watch, as well as Southern Alabama A&M. I'm really anxious to see if the Jaguars can pick themselves up off the deck playing at home on homecoming. A little bit of pressure there, but A&M's flying right now, flying high after a double overtime, come-from-behind win over Bama State. So I'm interested in those 2 games.
Absolutely, man. Well, look, you are very much appreciated on this end, always doing an awesome job. We're glad to be an affiliate of the Alcorn State Braves Network, where you can listen to the Alcorn State Braves football action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Tall Man Radio, my homeboy from St. Louis. That's why I said yep when we mentioned Akil Glass. Hey, man, it's a rough night. Last we checked, the Astros on top of the Nationals by the score of 4-0. It was headed, or it was in the bottom of the 7th, and it's 17-14. Green Bay on top of Kansas City, and they're still having a dogfight in that one. Charles, I want to thank you so much, man, for joining us. We are going to take a break, and we'll finish on with the rest of the Sports Report Live right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We will be right back.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Call Agent Jeremy West at 936-931-3696 to see if you qualify to save up to 40% off your auto insurance.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let's face it, from time to time, we'll have a need for an attorney, whether it's the case of a DUI, DWI, or any other circumstances that would find you on the other side of the law. Attorney Lee Van Richardson, located at 1047 Austin Street, is the one to call. Attorney Lee Van Richardson and his staff are equipped to help you get through your legal battles. Attorney Lee Van Richardson, 979-826-8008 in Hempstead, Texas. Hi, this is Mike Prince with the Open Mic Broadcast Network, extending an opportunity for you to become a listening partner with us today. At 17 cents a day, you can make a huge impact on our local and regional high school and college student athletic coverage. We provide local talk shows, live game coverage, and much, much more. But we need your support to continue to move forward. Visit our website today at obnradio.com. Click on the PayPal button, which is safe and secure, and become a listening partner today. 17 cents a day comes out to $60 a year. Will you become part of the Open Mic Broadcast Network team? Visit that website at obnradio.com and become a listening partner today. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
Attention Waller ISD voters, have you heard? There's a Waller ISD school bond election on the November 5th ballot. All projects directly impact our kids, and there's no anticipated tax increase. Early voting is underway now through November 1st. Waller County residents can go vote at the Waller County Community Center located at 21274 FM 1098 in Prairie View, or the WISD Administration Building located at 2214 Waller Street in Waller. For more information, including bond details and a list of complete polling locations, visit wallerisd.net. Please go vote.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
If you could do one thing to make an impact on the things that matter to your family, your community, and your country, wouldn't you do it? That's what voting is all about. An easy way to make a difference. Register, learn about the issues and candidates, and vote this November. Your vote helps shape the future of America. Visit www.vote411.org to get started. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
And welcome back to the Sports Report Live. Mike Prince here with you. Just had Tall Man Radio Charles Edmond on board with us, recapping the victory of the Alcorn State Braves and getting a closer, clearer picture of how things are shaping up in the world of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We are going to now move up north toward the Dallas, Texas area, and we will be joined by Johnnie Football Cole. He, too, is going to recap the game as it was. It was our featured game of the week. But to further move this show along, we're going to present to some and introduce to others, none other than Johnnie Football Cole. How you doing, my man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Well, brother, I'm still recovering, but I'm going to be all right. How about yourself, man?
Oh, pretty good. You know, it was a good brand of football this weekend. And some folks got their first win, and Alcorn kind of solidified who's the best in the conference, at least for right now, anyway.
Yeah,
Week to week, day to day.
You know that they are. If I am allowed to say it this way, they are the Patriots of the SWAC. How about that?
Yeah, and it's been that way for a while.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, they've been consistent on that east side.
So you know we've done the recap. We've had some some disappointing losses. We started on Thursday for me and PV Nation. You have to be, as a Texas Southern alum, a little disappointed that the Tigers couldn't get it done on the road in Enabita. And then before we get into those, what about our game of the week, Southern and Alcorn? Was it what you expected? Were you disappointed in the play? Give me your recap.
Well, Southern kind of struggled last week in stopping Texas Southern, especially in the run game, and one is explosive offensively. And I thought that they would, make some adjustments, make some changes. But of course, you couldn't play the same way against Alcorn, who has a all-around team. And when you look at Alcorn, you got a quarterback throwing for 277, almost 300 yards, and a guy rushing almost 100 yards. That's tough. That's tough to stop. And you can't be able to come into a game and have somebody control the game that way. Alcorn won that game. There's three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And Alcorn won that game in all three areas.
Well, with Alcorn winning that game, and there is an HBCU power ranking that just came out over the weekend, and I'm going to read this off to you, and you give me your assessment, Coach, of what you think. Coming in at number 5 was the Southern University Jaguars. Number 4 was North Carolina A&T Aggies. Number 4 was the South Carolina Bulldogs. Number 3 was the North Carolina A&T Aggies. Number 2, Florida A&M Rattlers. And number 1, the Alcorn State Braves. How do you, first of all, respond to that?
Well, that's pretty good there. Those MEAC teams are usually great defensive teams, and right now when you look at our conference, everybody is really struggling and not very consistent besides Alcorn. I think that's a good lineup. Of course, you always have teams there on the bubble. I was looking for Pine Bluff to see where they were test-wise, and they failed to win this week, but they did play tough. But sometimes, tough don't get it.
No, sometimes tough don't get it, and close only count in hand grenades and horseshoes. So, but what's interesting to me is that Florida A&M is at number 2 when they beat who was by far head and shoulders above everyone in North Carolina A&T. You would have thought that it would have been flip-flop between 1 and 2, Alcorn at number 2 and FAMU at number 1, which makes you scratch your head. Could some of the off-the-field challenges that the Rattlers have been dealing with lately have some play to doing and how they came in with this poll?
Well, of course, that always plays a role in that. But, you got to look at strength of schedule as well, And like you said, they got more winning teams over there on the MEAC side. But there's the other games that Florida A&M played before they played A&T. So I'm pretty sure strength of schedule played a role in it. The coach over there is doing a great job of getting a program turned around back to the glory years.
Well, yeah, of course, the coach being Willie Simmons, who started out, his coaching tree with Alcorn. From Alcorn, he, of course, got his first head coaching job at Prairie View. Now he's at Florida A&M. And it's a difficult thing when you take up, as they say, another person's laundry, if you would, to try to clean it up, sort it out, and then start adding your own laundry. Now, Coach, you being the professional on this end, how challenging is it to sell guys that you've inherited on your vision and your goal and direction for the team? Now you're the new guy in charge.
Well, the first thing that I know is they ain't they players, they the school or wherever I'm coaching at players. They my players. And I'll come in and I'll tell them, hey, there's a standard that I'm gonna go by, and I'm here for a reason, And there's some things that I'll put in place that everybody got to reach. And one of the things I always tell them that you're going to have to become us before we become you, you know. And you know, and I asked the kids, you know, if I told you that I can win a championship, you have to just do and trust me, you know, they usually buy in. And the ones that don't buy in, they move to the side. But unfortunately for me, I've always taken over real bad programs. You know, Texas Southern was 4-40 when I took that program over. Lane College was probably about 4-60. You know, they hadn't won over 2 games, you know, in almost 10 years. So, and then of course I've been a part of taking over programs with Pete Richardson, with Southern, and of course with my brother at Tennessee State and also at Alabama State. So coming into some of those programs, it depends on where they are. You know what I mean? You got to adjust your coaching style to wherever they are, but you don't adjust your standards. This is what it is to play here, and this is what you're going to have to do.
Okay, we're talking right now with Johnnie Football Cole here on the Sports Report Live. Want to give you a scoring update. They're headed into the fourth quarter right now. It's all tied 17-17 between the Chiefs and the Packers. And the World Series note, Game 5, top of the 8th inning, Houston Astros 4, Washington Nationals 1. So we'll try to keep you posted on that as we'll continue on with our football conversation. Now back to our game of the week, Coach. What do you see that each one of these programs did well, and what do you see they had struggles with when I talk about Alcorn and Southern?
Well, you know, Southern, you know, I'm a one quarterback guy. And, you know, sometimes when you bouncing back and back to quarterbacks, you know, and they come with different styles, of course you take your team out of rhythm sometimes. You know, and Alcorn had a quarterback to come in, and he started the game. The other one is hurt. That's really doing a great job for him. So, you know, Southern's they're gonna have to patch that defense up. You know, defense win championships and offense score points and put people in the stands. And I think Alcorn just got a balanced team. I think Coach McNair is doing a super job of recruiting and you know, he's reloading every year. He's not rebuilding, he's reloading.
And explain the difference between rebuilding and reloading, because we hear those terminologies all the time, and sometimes people will kind of mistake them for being the same thing. So split them up for me.
Yeah. Rebuilding is now when you're losing a lot of your seniors, you know, and you got a young team, and you might have a big senior class. Reloading is just, you know, I might have a senior wide receiver or a guy leaving at tailback or 1 or 2 offensive linemen. Then now that's what you're going. You're going out to recruit specific positions instead of bodies. So that's the biggest thing, and that's why when freshmen come in, if they're not going to play for you, you probably need to redshirt them. So as you keep on moving and you start having that winning football program, then it just catches fire, you know. And you always got to go and replace the guys that you have, keep the philosophy that you have, you know. Don't change, make the kids adjust to what you're doing there. And he's doing a great job at that.
Okay. Now, Coach, let me ask you this question, because you kind of spoke about it in your resume that you inherited teams that had challenges. Realistic terms and goals, if you're at the negotiation, I'm the athletic director, you're coach. Okay, Coach, I think I want to go with you, you know, in realistic layman terms, not talking about money. How long do you need for you, you know, with a legitimate opportunity to turn a program around?
You know, well, one would just say your third year, you should be competing for a championship. Your first year, you know, they call that your honeymoon year. But if you walk into a program that got some pieces, and I think some of these schools that I'm looking at got pieces, you know, some offensive linemen, you know, they're set in some areas, positions, like, oh, offensive line is pretty good. Oh, we got a quarterback. Oh, we got a good wide receiver core. Then you come in and patch where you lost it. I remember at Southern University, when I was a part of Coach Richardson's staff, we inherited 20 seniors. and 20 of them were starters. So all we did was came in and disciplined them. Hell, we won the championship the first year.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
But the programs I came in, when I came into Texas Southern, first of all, on the business side, they only had 40 scholarships. When on the Division I AA program, you had 63.
Okay.
You know, you get 63. So now I'm already short scholarship players. And then the cupboard was clean. You know, we didn't have no running back. I ended up starting a freshman running back. Our wide receiver core, we had to go out and find folks there. I mean, we was depleted on defense. The only person we had on defense was the Black College Player of the Year, my third year, which was DeJuan Folger. So we had to build around him. You know, go get defensive linemen. We had to make some changes. You know, a lot of times when you come into programs, you got kids playing out of position because coaches either don't promise him during recruiting time or just don't understand that kid ain't no defensive lineman. That kid's offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
So you know, you got to make those changes as well. So it depends on how many changes and directions that you have to move people around to go. And the biggest thing is getting a good coaching staff. You know, and I would say 3 years you should be competing for a championship.
Okay.
And it depends on where you are too. You know, of course, you know, I'm a Texas Southern expert. I'm gonna give my own self that.
Texas Southern expert.
Yeah, and I've been saying it since I walked on that campus in 1981. Texas Southern should always be competing for a title. You sit here in the fourth largest city in the country. You should always be competing because there's athletes. Each direction you go, there's athletes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's just what I say. So,
well, you know, to answer to that, to extend it just a little bit more, and look, I'm not going to try to strike the match because we can't go over like we did last week now. But it's easier said than done, especially when you're talking about Texas Southern's case. You're in Houston, and we know that if you're in Houston, you're competing with University of Houston, you're competing with Rice, you're competing with Houston Baptist now. You're competing with who am I missing? I guess that would be the four.
Sam Houston.
Yeah, Sam Houston. And even though Sam Houston is not in the Houston area, you still, even when it comes to news coverage, you know, and KPRC Channel 2, which is right close to Houston Baptist, they'll show them love because you can throw a stone and hit their campus from where they're located. But you have the influences of the A&M Aggies. You have the influence of the UT Longhorns. Even Baylor. You know, Baylor's having a pretty up year this year. And for the most part, kids sometimes think they're better than the HBCU programs in the likes of a Texas Southern or in the case of a Prairie View in the Houston vicinity. So how do you overcome that as a recruiter?
Well, you know, one thing, you know, you're going to get more no's than yes. And you got to know about the university that which you coached. Each school that I've been to, I learned all the history. There's always good things about every school that you go to. And you got to be able to sell that. In Texas Southern's case, you got to be able to sell some of the great things about the school, the law program, the business program, the pharmacy program. Talk about the teacher, the educational program, how many teachers here in the city, you know, and telling them, look, in your 4 years at Texas Southern University, once you walk out that door, you're going to walk right into a job. You're going to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody to get your job, and you don't have to ever leave. If it so happens that you don't graduate from school on time, it don't cost as much to go to an A&M or a Baylor. And then you got to also sell this to the parents and make them understand. You know, I mean, believe me, I don't have a racist bone in my body, but in my life now, most of the people I deal with outside of work look like me, act like me, talk like me. So I told them, when you come to Texas Southern, you're not only going to meet football players, you're going to meet doctors, lawyers, you know, judges. These are the kids that you're going to be going to school with. You know, and we got over 4 or 5 Fortune 500 companies right here in the city of Houston. And then I talk about myself, you know, how many championships I've won. I've won everywhere I've gone. I've coached 7 players It's been the player of the year in every conference I've been in. So I also sell myself. And then the biggest thing too is your coaching staff. Got to make sure that you get some coaches on there that's been some places and won some championships. You know, that's what I look for.
Okay.
I look for coaches that have been in championship programs.
So then, the challenging part of that, then, when you look for these golden nuggets of wealth, knowledge, or wealth of knowledge, I should have said, how do you afford these people with some of the budgets that you have available on an HBCU level?
See, that's the biggest myth that people don't understand about football coaching. It's so many coaches. You got Melvin Spears out there. Shoot, Melvin don't need no money. Don't want to coach football. You got James Woody, who don't want 5 national titles. You know what I mean? You got a whole bunch of people. Shit, you got myself. You got my brother out there coaching. You got Anthony Zoe. You got a bunch of coaches that have come in and coach for a little bit of nothing. See, the thing that you don't want to get confused when you become a head coach. You don't want to be the smartest one in the room. If you're the smartest one in the room, you don't need nobody else.
Okay, I got you.
You know what I mean? You need guys can see stuff that you don't see to bring it to you. You know what I mean? As a head coach, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's a lot of times the guys get these jobs and don't want to hire strong coaches because they're afraid of losing their job. I hired my brother. He's been a head coach. Melvin Spears has been a head coach. I hired my defensive coordinator who had coached in the pros, Kevin Ramsey. I've been in the pros. I hired guys around me that knew as much as me or even more than me in different areas that we want to cover every base that anything will hit us that we could cover. So, you know, you want to hire guys around you that's been in championship programs.
Now,
a couple.
You know, and look, and I'm reminding you, we're running out of time already. But people that are going to be hearing this and listening to this live or either later on in a podcast version of this, oh man, it sounds like Prince trying to set Cole up to get a job or something. And let me be very clear, I do not script anything or go over whatever. We talk about who we're going to feature as far as the game of the week, but that's it. So all of this is, as they say, live and live in color, and you can take it for what it's worth. But from what I'm hearing, you feel like you still got some coaching left in you.
Oh, without a doubt. And what you're doing, you're supposed to do that. My colleagues across the table, they do that for their people. Urban Meyer will be back coaching. Art Browse is back coaching. Les Miles is back coaching. My man over at the Oakland Raiders, what do? He go to commentate. He back coaching. The guy down in Arizona, the brother, you know what I'm talking about?
Sumlin.
Not Sumlin.
Sherman. Herm Edwards.
Sherman Edwards was broadcasted. I mean, it happens all over. I don't know why we don't like each other, Mike. I don't know why. But whatever it is, I appreciate you. And I appreciate anybody that each one teach one, each one reach back and bring one ahead. And that's what I believe in.
Very good.
There's no bitterness in me. If I don't ever walk on the green again, I know the kids that I touched, and they know me, and they know that I gave them all I could have. And it is what it is. You can't take nothing away from me that what I've done on that football field.
Absolutely. Now, real quickly, we got to pick a game of the week for the SWAC, okay? And I'm going to give you the list of opponents, and when you hear me go through them all, you're going to pick it again. Jackson State at Mississippi Valley, Texas Southern at Grambling, Alabama A&M at Southern, Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'm sorry, I said, Arkansas Pine Bluff at Jackson State. Let me give you that again. Arkansas Pine Bluff at Jackson State, Alabama A&M at Southern, Texas Southern at Grambling, and Alabama State at Mississippi Valley. Who you rolling with?
Southern is playing who now?
Southern University is playing Alabama A&M for homecoming.
That's gonna be a good one.
Okay.
Southern can't lose that one, and then Grambling and and Texas Southern Grambling is trying to run the table. And Pine Bluff, let's go with Pine Bluff and who they got this week, Pine Bluff? And
Pine Bluff will be taking on, hold on, I have to skip out of there. I got to get back to it. Hold on here.
Come on,
I got you right here. Pine Bluff will be taking on the likes of Jackson State.
Let's take that. Jackson State coming off of a win. Pine Bluff played. They had a tough loss this week. Let's take that one.
Okay. Well, look, man, as always, we appreciate you to the utmost. Johnny Football Code, we're going to be back same time, same channel next week. Man, you have yourself a fantastic rest of the weekend. I got some football updates for you. Green Bay Packers on top, 24-17 in the fourth quarter, about 9 minutes and some change left in that. And in the bottom of the eighth inning, it is the Houston Astros looking like they're about to come back to Houston with a 3-2 lead. They're up right now 5-1. We want to thank our sponsors on tonight, Attorney Lee Van Richardson, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Prairie View Athletic Club. We also want to thank Diva Skin Conditioner, located at divafeet.com. That's D-I-V-A-H feet.com. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Lord say the same and the creek don't rise. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. To all a good night. God bless. And we'll see you on the other side.